Welcome to Free Advice Friday. My name is Carrie Barna for New Shelves Books, and we're here for Free Advice Friday, where we talk about the business of being an author, publishing, marketing, the whole shebang. And so we are excited to get started. You can always join us live on Fridays by going to newshelves.com/FAF to register for the live Zoom link. It's absolutely free, and everyone's welcome to join us. We do also put the replays over on YouTube, which is just New Shelves Books, so you can go subscribe and follow us there. We are going to get started right away here with a question from Annette. And this question, I believe, is a follow-on to when we were talking about sellers, Amazon seller accounts. So we were recently talking about Amazon Advantage as well as Amazon seller accounts. And the question is, can an international author set up an Amazon seller account in the US and have books shipped from, say, Hong Kong to an Amazon warehouse to drop ship domestic orders? I don't believe so. This isn't something I've personally looked into in depth because I've never had to, but they usually, when you are getting your account, whether it be Amazon Advantage or whatever it may be, typically you do have to actually fill out the country. And I don't think certain accounts are not available in every country. So that's something that you would have to look specifically for the country you're looking at and then work from there. Now, what you could do is you could work with a distributor here in the US. So you could, ship books from pretty much anywhere to a distributor here in the US who is working with Amazon Advantage or Seller Central or something like that. Now, I will say that I think a lot of people do that where they kind of use a middle person to make that work. As far as can they have a Seller Central account directly with the US, I'm really not sure. You'd have to do some research into that. And again, it may differ from country to country. And Amazon does have all of this up on their website. So you can absolutely go check out their website. You can also you can ask them and talk to them and all that. So sorry, I don't have more information for you, but I do know it's available if you reach out to them. A question we got from Joe this week was how many bestseller lists are there on Amazon? I keep seeing lists and it seems to be multiple lists, and what's the question here? There are multiple lists, but it also seems like there are also things like new release. This is correct. So on Amazon, there are approximately, last time I checked, there are approximately, I believe it's 1,600 categories for books. So there's overall Amazon bestseller list where there's the top 100, and that's what Amazon considers a bestseller is top 100. And there's those overall bestseller lists, but then they also have category lists for each category. Beyond that, they have bestseller lists for new release in each category. And new release is like the first 30 days. And then you kind of phase out of that into the normal lists. And you can hit bestseller on the new release list as well as other lists like a category list. But what's cool about the new release list is you can get like #1 new release where you get the orange banner, and you don't actually have to be #1 in the category. You just have to be #1 of the new releases. So that gives authors kind of a unique opportunity, if it's important to them, to get that orange, bestseller banner from Amazon, so that you can see that. So let me show you. You know me and my visuals. Let me show you what some of this looks like because I happen to see it just now. It's one better. Told you I've got fat fingers today. Let me share my screen. All right. So this one, for example, is you can see a new release in Audible books and originals. So this is a new release list. And let's look and see if this book is actually a bestseller overall. So the way we check that, you can see that this says #1 bestseller, and it might be overall, I don't know, but we're going to check. Okay, so this one, you can see that this is in category #1 in Audible books and originals. So this is truly #1. This book is doing very well. But it is also in the new release list and they are different. So for example, we saw, let's just go back so we can look at this. So the books on this list are Not Till We Are Lost, All the Colors of the Dark, and Lovely One. And if we go to the main list that's not new releases, let's see if it's the same. So we are going to go to same Audible books and originals. And you can see here that Not Till We Are Lost is still #1 here, but there are other books in the 2 and 3 spot. And that's because these books are selling better than the new releases in the 2 and 3 spot. So you do have opportunity as a new book, a newly launched and released book, to hit certain bestseller lists just because your book is new. And you don't necessarily have to outsell some of the books that are more established than yours. And that can be a little bit confusing when people say, I was on the bestseller list, but then I wasn't on the bestseller list. How do I find it? So that's part of it, is that there's a new release list and then there is the bestsellers list. And both are valid, both are cool, but they are absolutely different lists. And then as far as how many books can we possibly have on a list? We are let's see. Let's do, oh, no, let's do literary fiction books. I don't know. I'm just reaching. I'm reaching for anything here. All right. So we're going to go. I'm not going to click on anyone's ad because I have a heart and I don't want to spend their money, but I am going to go here. All right. This one's a hardcover. And we can see here that when we go to the bestseller list, all the way down here, medical fiction. Let's click on here. So when we go here, this is print books and ebooks have different categories. Some of them overlap, some don't, but they do have like different categories. So you can see here that under books, we have this whole list of literature and fiction. And then from literature and fiction, it goes down to genre fiction and absurdist and animals and blah, 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 blah. And it goes all the way down. And there's all of these categories. And then sometimes within these categories, you can find more categories. So in animals, sometimes you'll find like marsupials or different things like that. So there are a lot of lists. And then if we go back to books and we go to Kindle books, it's a whole different set of lists. So if we go to the department and look at Kindle books, I think it's under Kindle. Digital music, Kindle store. There we go. And this is a whole new list of different books and different things that are in here. So Kindle ebooks, under Kindle nonfiction, and then we get this whole new list. And that's why there's so many categories, and that's why there's so many chances to rank well and to hit different types of bestseller lists, because not only do you have all of these lists, but you have those new release lists. So hopefully that is a little bit more clear as to why you might be on a list and then not appear on the list. And also keep in mind that these lists are updated every hour. So you might be on the list for an hour and then it goes off. So keep that in mind. And also, in addition to the bestseller list, there are also free lists. So they do separate it out. If you're giving a book away for free, like a Kindle free promo, there's a whole different list for topping the free list. That one isn't necessarily, it's not considered a bestseller because it didn't sell, it was given away. But there's also a free list. And so you can reach the top of those as well. So lots of opportunities to be at the top, to rank with algorithm and, you know, get that screenshot, which is just kind of fun on Amazon. Let's see. I have an ebook on Kindle Select and want to use the 5-day free giveaway. What are the most effective ways to advertise the dates and where? So absolutely, if you want to do for anyone who does not know, if you're in the Kindle Select program, that means that your book's in Kindle Unlimited, which means it has to be exclusive for Amazon for the ebook format only. And you can put it up there. Readers read with subscription. It's a lot like Netflix for books. It's called Kindle Unlimited. Most of you are familiar with it. And then the author or publisher gets paid by the page read. So that is it's a different model than going wide. So people who are in like Apple and iBooks and all of those things. However, we know that approximately 80, excuse me, 87 to 91% of ebooks are consumed or purchased on Amazon in both the US, the UK, and I believe Canada as well. Although Canada does tend to use Kobo quite a bit more, Barnes and Noble too, but really Kobo. And so Kindle Unlimited and Kindle Select, when you're in that program, you have the option to run something called a countdown deal. And a countdown deal is where literally it counts down. Your book is priced, I think it's like it's $2.99 one day, and then it's $1.99, then it's 99 cents, then it's free. And then it kind of goes back up. So you can do a countdown deal every 90 days because each contract for Kindle Select is a 90 days contract. It auto renews unless you opt out. So that's a Kindle Countdown deal, or you can't do both, but you can do that, or you can do a 5-day free promo with Amazon where you can set your book for free for up to 5 days. You don't have to use all 5 days. You can do one day at a time and do it. I don't know. You could do it every Friday for 5 Fridays. You could do it 5 days at a time. You could do 3 days and then do 2 days later on in the 90-day period. It's really up to you how you use it. I typically, when running a free promo through Kindle Select, I tend to do Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because I found those are the dates that work best to get the most downloads. With some caveats, of course, if it's a holiday or different things like that. But normally Thursday to Sunday or Thursday to Monday is what I prefer to do. And the thing is that if you set it to free and you don't advertise it, someone might stumble on it, but it's not as likely. You really have to advertise your free ebook in order for people to discover it. So you can, of course, do things like Amazon ads, but that's pretty slow going and can get pretty expensive. So I recommend investing in a couple of placements in discount newsletters. Discount newsletters might include something like Bargain Booksy, Fussy Librarian, Book Doggy, Kindle, what is it? Kindle Nation. There's like a bunch of them. And so that's what I personally like to do. Depending on your genre, certain newsletters might be better for you than others. However, I've been really happy overall with Free Booksy, which is owned by Written Word Media. I'm also a big fan of the Fussy Librarian. Fussy Librarian does have more options for nonfiction titles and more categories for nonfiction titles than almost any other platform I've found. There's also Red Feather Romance, if your book's a romance. Robbins Reads is very popular for fantasy, women's fiction, and romance, so that's another option as well. And like I said, there's more, but those are kind of the ones that I can use the most. Now, Written Word Media, that again owns Free Booksy and Bargain Booksy, does have something they call a promo stack, where you can go through them and set up a promotion, and they will get multiple platforms for you. So they will set up, and you just go through them and they'll say, okay, we can do 3 days with 3 different promotions. We'll get you into Free Booksy this day, Hello Books the next day, and then another one the next day. And they can do that. I have found when I do that, it's slightly more expensive, and I don't know that the results are as good as when I do it separately, partially probably because all of these platforms have slightly different things that you can use for as far as connecting to Goodreads or not, which certain platforms allow you to do and don't allow you to do. Certain platforms have where they only take one sentence or a certain number of characters for your promotion, and others take longer pieces. So I'm not sure how that works when they're doing stacks, if the written word media team shortens it for you, or if they just take up to a certain number of characters and then kind of finish it off like a sentence. I'm not exactly sure how that works out. And so I have found that I personally prefer to set everything up separately so that I can have full control of that. And so that I can make sure that I'm accessing each one. As I said, it's also slightly less expensive when we do it that way. But I will also say that if you are overwhelmed by that thought, if you like the thought of setting up a free promotion and then setting up different newsletters, because you do have to kind of get on all the sites at one time and then check and see if everyone has stuff available. So you actually have to like open up Free Booksy and open up Fussy Librarian and open up, Robbins Reads, and you have to check and see if they have things available on the same day, and then you have to schedule them. It's not hard, you can do it. But if that feels overwhelming to you, then doing the promo stack is one of those things that, sometimes convenience wins out. And again, that is through Written Word Media, and they own and run Free Booksy and Bargain Booksy. I've worked with them for a long time, and I've been very happy with their services for ebook promotion out to newsletters. They have a number of other promotions as well. Some I like better than others. Like they will add on social media ads, which I prefer to run my own. They also do programs that can help build your mailing list. Again, convenience factor is great. I find better success when I do it myself through BookFunnel. But if you're not going to do that or you're overwhelmed by that, then it's a great program there. So in the chat, I did drop a link to the People We Like page. And on New Shelves, you just go to newshelves.com, you go to resources, and you go to the People We Like page. And on this page, towards the bottom, I'll share my screen again. Towards the bottom, we actually just share a bunch of the people that we like and we've worked with. It would help if I could see the share screen. There we go. These minor details here. All right, so here, and it's just, again, you go to newshelves.com, you go to the resources page, and you click on People We Like, you'll come right here. And when you do that, on this page, we've got all the people we like. So I love Jane Friedman's newsletter. Highly recommend that. Sandra Beckwith and Build Book Buzz. Love her. Actually, she might be coming on Read Bites Friday soon, which is exciting. I'll keep you guys updated on that. Ingram Spark, Ally, all these things. But if you get lower, we also have different sections for things like book editing, interior book design, book cover design, all the things, people that we've liked, we've worked with, and that we generally recommend. And at the bottom is discount book promotion sites. And if you scroll down, I've got all of these linked. So Book Cave, Good Kindles, The Fussy Librarian, Bargain Booksy, which is Written Word Media, Just Kindle Books, Robbins Reads, and Lit Nuts are some of the ones that I personally have used and really enjoyed. So you have access to this page. It's, again, a free resource that we offer up, and you can just get to it through newshelves.com. But I did put the link in the chat as well for anyone who wants it there. Let's see. That one answered. I'm just answering a question here. Sorry about that. All right. Another question that came up this week, and we've actually been seeing a lot of this, is people who are using Findaway Voices for your ebook distribution. If you are using Findaway Voices for your ebook distribution and you're looking at your reports and feeling like no books are selling, please, when you're looking, make sure you're looking at your reports for more than the last 30 days. So in the standard report, when you look for your sales, the last 30 days is what automatically populates. The thing is that I have been finding is that your Audible and ACX sales will show up under the correct date. However, so let's say you had a sale, I don't know, in May. You had a sale in May. So those sales will show up in May. However, they're not showing up until about 2 months after that month. So your May sales are not showing up until the end of July. So if you only look at a 30-day rolling total on Findaway Voices, what happens is that you have, it like looks like you didn't sell anything, especially if you're really selling mostly on Audible and through Amazon. And so it looks like you didn't sell much or much of anything, or that no one's buying from Amazon. But if you expand that, if you look at year to date and look backwards, you will see those sales populate. However, and again, it's really confusing because it has the right date. Like if you sold something on May 29th, it will say May 29th on there. So that's why it shows up in the reports back in May 29th. However, Amazon and Findaway don't get together and process that and show as your royalty until July, the end of July. So if you're only looking at those 30-day rolling totals, you're not really ever seeing those reports. You still get paid on it. But if you're one of those kind of, your audiobook is newer, or you're kind of trying to track and see if something worked, do know that you have to look backwards. Now, that makes audiobook promotion a little bit more difficult if you are doing, and actually, speaking of written word media, one of the things that they do now is they are working with Audio Thicket, and Audio Thicket is where they promote audiobooks, but they're not discount audiobooks. They're audiobooks available on Audible, and they send to a list of people who are Audible subscribers and encourage them to use their credit for Audible. And so that's one of the things that you can do now through written word media. And I tried it recently. I actually tried it with a fiction and a nonfiction book. And they send to however many subscribers they have, and they tell you, and it's not very expensive at the moment, but they tell you and they send it out to their people, and it's only once a week. I think they do one email once a week, and they send it, tell them about your book and say it's on Audible, they can use a credit. And so I tried it for a fiction and a nonfiction book. And of course, I'm watching the rankings those days, but that's kind of hard to tell, especially because Amazon, when there is a big rush of attention or sales, Amazon's been slowing down on how quickly they update the specific page to make sure, I'm sure they're checking for bots is what it is. But so we're checking the rankings. But as far as did it work? Well, I ran those in August, so I will find out in October, because I can't fully track the sales if I'm using Findaway Voices for those books. I can't fully track the sales until 2 months later. So it's that kind of thing that you do need to keep in mind when you're trying to measure the success of, are my Amazon ads affecting my audiobook? Well, you won't know for a while, and different things like that. So that's things to definitely consider. And Elaine, or I'm sorry, Jeff is asking, if considering an audiobook is worthwhile. Yes, 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 yes. Audiobooks are absolutely becoming more and more popular. They're still growing. They're actually expected to continue growing year over year until 2027. 2027 is where they're kind of expected to peak a little bit more. But right now is still a great time to get into it. And a lot of people are listening to audiobooks, not only because they don't take up space, but because people are listening to them on their commute. They're listening to them just different places. And the people who are listening to a lot of audiobooks, I will say a lot of men tend to listen to audiobooks. So categories that are popular for men will typically do well. Things like science fiction, thrillers will typically do well. And nonfiction is one of the strongest audiobook categories. So if your book's in nonfiction, I highly recommend that you consider, especially if your book is more text and not a bunch of graphs or anything like that, or photos. Children's and YA audiobooks are becoming more popular as kids get devices younger and younger. However, it's growing, but it's still not. If you told me, hey, I only have enough to invest in this or this, I probably would not pick an audiobook or narrating an audiobook over other things, simply because you won't sell as much in middle grade for sure. YA just depends. If it's YA that appeals to adults, you might. Fantasy and romantasy are popular everywhere. They're just everywhere. Ebook, paperback, everywhere. Excuse me. So audiobooks are definitely worth it. Now they are an investment. When you look at audiobooks, there are different options. You can do things like a royalty share through ACX, which is where you're sharing the royalty of any sales with your narrator who also does a lot of the production piece, and you might be outright paying them some as well as doing a royalty share, or it might be a royalty share only. So rather than paying them up front, they are essentially throwing in their lot with you and spending their time, but then you split sales. So if the book doesn't do great, then neither of you do great. If the book does amazing, well, you're splitting those profits. So that's something to consider. And then they also have, I have to say it, you guys, KDP, the KDV audio, the audio voice. So they are doing AI voice books. It is still in beta. It's not on every book. Not every book is eligible, but they do have it on a lot of accounts. Last time I looked at numbers, which was a couple months ago, approximately 40,000 titles had used that KDP AI voice to make audiobooks. And when I asked in a very, very large author group, I asked in two of them actually, if people who were using that feature, if they were noticing anything. And most of them said that they were not noticing any real increase in sales, that they saw it more as something that made their book available to those who maybe had eyesight issues or for whatever reason needed an audiobook, but they weren't seeing a big uptick, and they weren't marketing it much because that audiobook is only available on Amazon, and it does have a note on Audible and on Amazon that it's made with virtual voice. So it's noted right on there. And so some people have used it. Some people have gotten a lot of backlash for using it because it's AI. But do with that what you will. It is free to do, and it's super, super quick. And when I say super quick, unless maybe your book is like science fiction and you'd have to listen through to like check and see if all the words were spelled or like said correctly. If it's, let's say it's a contemporary romance and it's got pretty, common language in there. Um, they take your your ebook, you click a button, you pick a voice, and then it's done. I actually created an audiobook from a romance title. So again, I did not go page through page proofreading and listening because that would have taken, however long it takes to read a book. So let's call it 8 hours. I was not going to do that, nor did the author want me to, because again, it was pretty simple. That audiobook took me 5 minutes to make, just 5 minutes. So it's very quick. It is free. However, it's not available on all books, and it's only available on Audible or Amazon. And sometimes there's backlash, but you should know your options. And then from there, there's also just hiring narrators or production companies. That will be a little bit more expensive, but you do have more creative control. And from there, if you're hiring a narrator or production companies, you may do something called a duo where you have more than one voice, very popular with dual POVs, where you've got a male or a female. You can have a full cast character where either they are taking turns reading through an entire chapter or section, or there is actually something called, I think it's duet. I have a video on this. I'll pull it up. But where people actually are like talking back and forth like it's a conversation. Now that is more expensive because it's a full production. People have to be in studio together so they can actually, respond to each other rather than reading their own sections and delivering that way. So it can get pricey depending on how long your book is, how many characters you want, and all sorts of things. But there are also very economical ways to do it. And it just depends on you, your book, and what works best for your business plan. I don't think there's a right answer. I think that there is a lot of information to process, and you should know what your options are and then choose what's best for you. Can you withdraw an AI audiobook if you later get rich enough to do a full production version? So you can unproduce, you can unpublish essentially an AI audiobook with the virtual voice on KDP. I don't know if it will then allow you to go through ACX and create a whole audiobook later. I'm not even sure that anyone's tried because it's still fairly new. I know you can unpublish. I don't know if you can then, I mean, of course, you can always create an audiobook later and you can put it up on other places like Kobo and Findaway Voices for Overdrive and things like that. But I don't know if you would be able to then claim that audiobook and have it put up for sale on Audible for Amazon because that's really their, it's all in their little platform. That's a really great question, and I haven't come across it yet, so I don't know the answer, and I don't know what plans they have in place for that for later. I may be dating myself, but mightn't children's audiobooks do better by using different voices for the characters and by incorporating digital music? Back in the day, Kevin, you're funny. Disney and other kid-themed authors made a killing with books that came with a vinyl 45. Okay, well, that was back in the day, I'll be honest. But yes, yes, yes. So, yeah. So when we are thinking about children's audiobooks, many times it's best to think of them as a marketing tool rather than the main event, meaning you can sell or you can have a free MP3 download in the back of the book, where when people buy the book, there's a QR code that takes them to an MP3 download or to your website where it's like a read along. That's a really great way to get people on your mailing list if you have a children's book. Some people are using things like doing audio on YouTube to get kids excited about a book and then, linking over to the book and selling the book that way. When I say I don't think audiobooks are a big money maker for children's books, what I mean is that most people are not actively out looking for children's books, middle grade books in audio. Most of them are looking for tactile, real books. Now, having an audio component for marketing as a added value is huge. A lot of kids' books will have a music soundtrack or they will have very animated. I've even seen like really cute where they animated the story and had it like a little short that went with it, doing different things. And yes, kids are absolutely into the animated voices. So multiple voices is helpful, or if you are one of those gifted people, if you're one of those storybook people who can do different voices and accents and kids get really excited, absolutely. I would say that typically I would suggest that authors do that if it's within their skill set or they can do it on a low budget. I would not spend a high budget on these things because I don't think you'll get the return on children's books. Um, Maybe starting in middle grade a little bit more, but not before that so much, in my opinion. Not with one thing. Is it still true if you use ACX and go wide, the royalties are lower than if you're exclusive? That is still true. So if you are on ACX, which is the Audible Amazon version of the audiobook publisher, then yes, if you are exclusive to ACX, you get 40% royalties. If you go wide and are non-exclusive, you get a 25% royalty, and that is still true. A lot of people have tried to fight it because, well, for a lot of reasons, but and tried to get it more. Audiobooks have really low royalties in comparison to other digital assets like ebooks. And Audible and ACX are one of the lowest at 25%. And people have tried to fight that and do different things, but they're not budging too very much on that. And as far as Findaway Voices and some of the AI learning that was in their contracts, they did walk that back. Will it show up again? I don't know. We're seeing more and more where even publishers are starting to negotiate and put into their contracts that they have the right to sell AI learning on books. Even publishers are doing this, where they're putting it in, where they're like, part of when you license a book to a publisher, you sell it to a publisher and get a publishing contract, it includes the right to train AI learning models on it. So that may be the way of the future. And if it is, there's not anything that we can really do about that. Like, we can't change that if that is the way of the future, although there are a lot of things like Authors Guild and IBPA and Ally who are working to make sure that there are fair contracts out there. I think that's the most important thing, to have fair contracts that are honest, that are forthright, and that there's no hidden things in the contracts. And that's pretty much what we're looking for now is, can we stay away from AI altogether? I don't know that we can, but can we look for, honest compensation and a forthright contract that lays out the terms clearly? That's what we're looking for at this point. And as far as narrating your own books, I think that some people can do this, some people can't. Yes, there are programs that teach you how to record your own audiobook. And they're great information. And some people can do this and they do very well. I think the thing is that you have to be honest with your own ability and also about the intricacies of your book. So for example, it is very popular for nonfiction authors to narrate their own books, their own audiobooks, because it's nonfiction. Having the author's voice is really helpful. The same is true of a memoir. And that usually works okay. I will say some people are terrible. They're just terrible narrators. They talk really fast, or they don't take breaths in between sentences, or they're just not very good at it. But nonfiction, usually you can slide by, you can learn it. It is a skill for sure. And then if you have fiction audiobooks, again, I think you have to honestly consider, do you have the voice and animation for it? And do you have the skill? If you have 17 different accents in your book and you're terrible at accents, now you don't have to go learn the language and have a super heavy accent. In fact, a good friend of mine who is an audiobook narrator often says, you don't need the accent, you need the hint of the accent. But that's again a skill. So it's not something that's always innate. Just because you can read does not mean that you should read an audiobook. And so authors can narrate their own. That saves on a lot of costs for sure. But I think you need to be honest with yourself and your skill and know that you might need to practice and work on that. I promise you, if you're a reader or if you're an author, go read an entire chapter of your book out loud. It's harder than it looks. And some people excel at it, some people don't. But that will be a case-by-case basis. It's certainly an option, though. Yeah, you would think the popularity of audiobooks would, make those royalties higher, but publishers and publishing platforms don't want to make it higher. They're making a killing on those royalties from audiobooks. So just to lay it out there, let's just say that you're non-exclusive for Amazon and Audible and you're getting a 25% royalty, keeping in mind that you front the cost of the audiobook just like you do if you're self-publishing an ebook. Well, if your ebook is priced above $2.99, you're getting a 70% royalty. 70%. But if your audiobook is up and out there, you're making a 25% royalty if you're not exclusive. Even at exclusive, a 40% royalty. And there's no cost to Amazon. Real, I mean, of course, they have their hosting and their platform, they have costs, but it's much like an ebook in many ways, and the royalty discrepancy is huge. And it's not just Audible. There are lower royalties. 40% is pretty standard on a lot of platforms. I'm pretty sure that's what it is on Spotify and Kobo. So it's still a lot lower than it is for ebooks. And that has been something that's been talked about a lot, especially in the last couple of years. Some progress has been made on some platforms, less than others, but it's definitely still a big discrepancy between the audiobook and the ebook royalties. Yes, people need to be honest about how their voice sounds. It is true. Some people some people do not have um the tone quality. Some like let's be honest. You ever heard like you listen to the radio and you're like, man, this person's like you don't even think about it, but their voice is just like cozy. And it like or it's exciting or it's not, but it's not grating. You can listen to it for a long time. And there are some people who we've all listened to those audiobooks that like made us cringe, that some people just don't have the skill. Some people don't have the voice. It's not, you can learn a lot, but some things you just can't learn. It's just your voice, and maybe it's not your gift. Go shine somewhere else. Yes. I've heard some awful narrators, period. Awful author narrators. Yes, or some people drone. I have to say, I see this a lot in I have to think of my words carefully. Sometimes audiobooks, but also a lot of public speaking, the droning, when people talk like this. And they continue talking like this until suddenly you're sleepy, so very sleepy. Which, if it's a book that's meant to put you to bed, or it's like a YouTube channel that's like meant to help you sleep, fantastic. Otherwise, not many of us want to hear that for 8 hours. And, then he stabbed him and he felt so very sad. That's not very exciting. So, you know, know, know your gifting and know where you're not gifted in all things, not just audiobooks, but all of it. Let's see. I see on Facebook children book authors and illustrators who want to read your book and then they read yours and give reviews. I would buy it and send to her. So this sounds like one of those Facebook scams, honestly. There are a lot of people out there who ask you for money to read your book, maybe even put it up on their YouTube channel, and then leave you a review. So I want to remind everyone that paying for reviews, if they're leaving them on places like Amazon, is against the terms of service, and it will get you in a lot of trouble. It can get your KDP account closed, it can get your Amazon book shut down or excluded from reviews. So we don't want to do that. Beyond that, paying for someone to put it on their social media or something like that, unless they are a big influencer and you see a lot of interaction on their regular post, it's not likely to go very far. There are also people who will ask if they can read your book out loud and put it on YouTube. And you think, oh, that's so sweet. But it's not. I mean, it is, it's fine. But they have their motives. And usually their motives are they are building up a YouTube channel that they're monetizing that has audiobooks on it or has children's audiobooks on it. And so they are trying to get your permission to read your book on their YouTube channel so they can get more subscribers and more watches and listens. And yes, it markets your book, I guess, but someone else is getting paid for your work instead of you doing it yourself and putting it up on YouTube or licensing the rights of your audiobook somewhere else and getting paid that way. So just keep that in mind. When people ask if they can read your book on YouTube or they ask for you to pay for them to do that, just keep that in mind. My rule of thumb for Facebook messages, by the way, is if you did not contact them, if you did not message them and ask for their help, run away because it's usually a scam. Same thing goes for email marketing. If someone shows up in your inbox and you didn't contact them or sign up for their newsletter, or like they're not a reputable source that you can easily look up and like know who they are, they're probably not the person for you. It, yeah, there's just too many scammers out there, unfortunately. So just be wary of that. My rule of thumb is, did you contact them first? If so, open lines of communication. But if they contacted you out of the blue, be wary. And I promise you that established companies who are doing well typically don't need to do that. They don't need to cold call. They don't need to, pretend like they've read your book. And I promise a lot of these people are like, I read your book and it was so great, and I would love to market it and be your PR person. They did not read your book, and almost never. They are trying to scam you. They're trying to flatter you and make you feel good so you want to work with them. They will promise you the moon because they know it's what you want to hear. Um, and just be wary there. That's a whole soapbox. I could get on for way too long. Um, yes, absolutely. Let's see. I'd like to make my adult nonfiction book available in Braille. Do you have clients who have done this? Yes, actually, this is a very interesting topic, Cheryl. So creating Braille books is actually typically, in my experience, very expensive, but I have an author who's fabulous. Her name is Barb Hinsky or Barbara Hinsky, and she has a book series called Guiding Emily, which is all about a main character who goes blind. Because Barb has a lot of experience here. I believe she's legally blind now, and she's done a lot of work and research with different schools for the blind and training with blind dogs, all sorts of stuff. She's had so many great experiences. Guiding Emily was actually also turned into a Hallmark movie. So if you're looking for something to watch, it's on Hallmark. But anyway, so because of that and because of her experiences, I have gotten to see quite a bit of Braille books and different things like that. And they are expensive to make, but not only that, it's this assumption that every blind person knows Braille. And the truth is that many blind people do not know Braille, or they only know the basics of Braille. They don't typically go and read Braille books all the time. It is much more common to use other ways of learning, like audiobooks. So if you were wanting to make your book available to those who weren't able to see, then I would personally recommend an audiobook as not only a better investment, but also as something that would probably be more widely used in those communities. Now, if you have a specific reason, I have a cousin who reads in Braille and I'd like to do it for them. That's certainly something to look into, but it is more of a process than you might think. And so just consider that. Yeah, absolutely. Blind, ugh, come on, Kevin, not blind dogs, although they are lovely. No, guide dogs. You know what? I haven't even drank all my coffee yet. So, guide dogs for the blind. Yes, seeing eye dogs. I know. All right, you guys. I think we've got all our questions for today answered. Denise, I will look that up today to see what's going on. So I'll look that up for you. But everyone else, thanks for being here. It's been a fun morning. We will be back next Friday at the same time, 10 a.m. Eastern. If you have questions, you can bring them live by going to newshelves.com/FAF. Again, it's free to register, or you can email them in. If you think of something this weekend or Tuesday, you can always email it in to info@newshelves.com. I save those questions up for Fridays and then we get them answered when we're able live. And you can always watch live or on the YouTube replay. So thank you, everyone. Have a great Friday, and I will see you next week. Bye, everybody.